Hurricane Milton is continuing to defy odds as a very intense hurricane in the southern Gulf of Mexico, becoming the second strongest hurricane on record in the Gulf of Mexico at 897 millibars of pressure yesterday. So in today's forecast, we're going to break down exactly what you need to know about Hurricane Milton and why this is setting up to be one of the worst hurricanes of all time for the state of Florida. We are going to begin with what Milton looks like early this morning, and notice that the eye is not even apparent right now. This has actually been downgraded at the time recording this forecast as a high-end category 4 hurricane, but it will become a category 5 again at some point today as that eye wall replacement cycle comes to a finish. That essentially means that we are going to see a much larger eye appear out of the center of Hurricane Milton throughout the daytime hours today, but overall there's still a lot of convection. This is a relatively large hurricane, and the southern side of the hurricane is actually flirting with the northern Yucatan Peninsula right now, bringing some tropical storm force wind gusts to those areas. Here's a broader view of Hurricane Milton currently in the southwestern Gulf of Mexico over the last 3 to 6 hours. And again, notice that eye, it was pretty apparent earlier. That's when we were down to 897 millibars last night. It has obviously weakened a little bit with that eye wall replacement, but is expected to intensify again as it continues to move to the east into the southeastern Gulf of Mexico. Now let's talk more about the track and intensity of this hurricane, and we're going to check out the HAFSB model. This is a model that's built specifically for hurricanes. It does a pretty good job, in my opinion, of track and intensity, and has a pretty good track record as well when it comes to both of those things. I do want to point out that this model run is actually from 12 hours ago, but the reason why I'm using it is because the values of pressure and wind speeds are much more accurate on this model run compared to the next couple that have come up. So that's why I'm using it, but nonetheless, still pretty much the same forecast. Over the next 12 to 24 hours, this is expected to continue to stay as a category 5 or high-end category 4 hurricane in the southern Gulf of Mexico. As we go into Wednesday morning, that is when things become obviously concerning because this will be approaching the state of Florida. The good news is that it will begin to weaken, but it will still be an intense hurricane offshore. The bad news is that this is going to grow in size. The hurricane's actually going to become larger as we go into the afternoon hours on Wednesday, meaning that the wind field of hurricane force winds and tropical storm force winds is going to enlarge essentially across a large chunk here of areas just west of Florida, and then all of that will start to move inland as we approach landfall sometime around midnight or so Wednesday night into very early Thursday morning. Notice how the pressure drops quite a bit to 963 millibars. Again, that could also be a little bit lower or higher. It's still again a questionable number as of right now, but nonetheless, we are expecting a category 3 or a low-end category 4 hurricane to make landfall in Florida as we go into tomorrow night, and it'll move across central Florida, where we are eventually going to see a lot of impacts, including power outages and as well as flooding. And then on the backside of this hurricane on Thursday, more storm surge will be possible across the east coast of Florida. So we're going to talk more about the impacts of Hurricane Milton coming up in just a moment. Now let's talk about the timing and rainfall impacts out of Hurricane Milton, and then we'll talk more about the storm surge and as well as the potential for tornadoes and as well as the potential for power outages. We'll begin first though with the rainfall. So as we go into Wednesday afternoon, that is when rain is going to start to really pick up across central and northern Florida. And if the eye of the hurricane makes landfall right in Tampa Bay or Sarasota, we are going to see the worst of the rainfall on the north side of the eye. So if you're back over anywhere from Tampa back through Daytona Beach and Jacksonville, that is where we are expecting the potential for several inches, if not even potential for over a foot of rain in some areas Wednesday night into Thursday morning. That rain is going to stay heavy Wednesday night into Thursday morning across central and northern Florida, and then eventually this will still be a hurricane all the way through the east coast of Florida near Daytona Beach and Palm Bay as we go into the late Thursday morning, and then eventually by the afternoon this moves offshore, producing storm surge for areas right along the east coast of Florida. So in terms of rainfall accumulation, the current thinking is that we are going to see a hot pocket, a really thin area, but a really hot pocket of the potential for 10 to 15 inches of rainfall. That should mostly happen south of Jacksonville. Daytona Beach, Orlando, and Tampa would be right on the cusp of the heaviest of the rainfall. This is a faster moving hurricane than Hurricane Ian, so I think there's some comparable stuff to this, but I don't think this hurricane will dump nearly as much rain as what Ian dumped, but it is still going to be a significant area to watch, and we also could see an isolated spot or two pick up as much as 20 inches of rainfall. Now I'm going to show you the wind gust map from the GFS model, but I'm also going to show you the wind map and also a power outage map to give you a better idea of what you can expect. So this is where we're expecting where the greatest winds will be. So the yellow and also tan brown kind of area here near Sarasota is where the hurricane force wind field is going to be as we go into Wednesday night. It's really going to be impacting areas directly near Cape Coral, Sarasota, and Tampa Tampa, and this is going to move inland and eventually impact areas like Orlando, Palm Bay, and it will become more elongated as we go into Thursday morning. So areas on the east and west coast will be dealing with hurricane force winds here across the state of Florida. And then as we go into Thursday, late morning into the early afternoon, the worst of the wind will start to move offshore before things eventually taper down as we go into late Thursday night into Friday morning, and then cleanup efforts will obviously be underway then. A couple of big things that we are expecting out of Hurricane Milton, again, is the wind. We just talked about it, but let's put it more into a number sense of things. Right now, the greatest wind impact is expected in the purple area near Tampa Bay, back through Cape Coral, where there will be a potential for Category 3+ winds in this area. And then anywhere in the red is where we also could see hurricane force winds. That goes anywhere from Orlando back through Jacksonville and also up and down the east coast near Daytona Beach, and also just off to the north there of Palm Bay, Florida. And so this is also another area where we're expecting a lot of power outages. And then tropical storm force winds will be possible anywhere in the yellow and orange. I would expect some scattered power outages in those orange shaded areas. Now, in terms of the actual power outage map, this is another graphic made by James Pettis. You can check him out on Twitter. This is what we're looking at in terms of power outages. Widespread power outages are expected across most of western, central, and eastern Florida. The dark red is where we are expecting likely power outages, basically meaning scattered to numerous, and then isolated power outages anywhere in that light shaded red area. That goes all the way up, by the way, into southeastern Georgia. Now, the tornado threat in Florida is not expected to be that significant, but we are expecting a few tornadoes on Wednesday across mostly central and southern Florida. This particular area right along and just south of I-4 from about Daytona Beach and Tampa down southbound is where I think the best chance will be for a few tornadoes. I'm not expecting an outbreak. Just make sure that you have a tornado action plan in place and also multiple ways to receive alerts. Now, the most life-threatening and dangerous impact out of Hurricane Milton is going to be storm surge. And as of right now, the National Hurricane Center is forecasting substantial storm surge, especially in the Tampa Bay area, where it'll be catastrophic, upwards of 10 to 15 feet of storm surge, basically life-threatening, not survivable if you're right near the coastline. We also will be talking about 6 to 10 feet of storm surge in Charlotte Harbor, 5 to 10 feet between Yankeetown and Anclo River, and then other areas on the east coast of Florida going anywhere from 1 to 5 feet of storm surge, mostly on Thursday. Now, before we go further into the forecast, I do want to mention, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. We're going to have live updates today on Hurricane Milton. Either today or tonight, we'll have a live stream. We'll probably have one tonight for sure. I don't know about yesterday, at least for today. But make sure you're subscribed to the channel and click the bell icon so you're notified with the latest live stream. The tropics are expected to continue to stay very active. We still have Hurricane Leslie over in the eastern Atlantic Ocean. We obviously have Hurricane Milton right now in the Gulf of Mexico. But notice this right here. We actually have a 20% chance over the next 24 hours for a tropical depression or storm to form off the east coast of Florida. Meanwhile, Milton is only 48 hours or less away from landfall in Florida. It is absolutely bonkers. The tropics are going to stay active over the next week or two. We're going to continue to keep you posted with the latest, so make sure you're subscribed to the channel, like the video, and make sure you are staying tuned. We'll probably be live again later today for an update on Hurricane Milton, so click the bell icon so you're notified when we go live.